Before COVID, almost every advanced industrialized country in the world has had a strong, robust social safety net program in their countries. They had single payer healthcare. In some cases, they have nationalized healthcare like they have in the UK, where the government runs the entire healthcare system. They had strong unemployment insurance systems. They had strong government assistance programs before COVID. And then after the pandemic started, the government saw how extreme and dire the situation was and how bad it could get. And they radically ramped up the government assistance to where, in a lot of cases, like in Germany, France, they're giving citizens $2,000 a month to stay home or to keep them afloat throughout this crisis. Almost every other country has managed to provide for their citizens in this kind of way since this crisis started. That has not been the case here in the United States. Of course, as you guys know, we didn't even have any type of single payer program before COVID started, and millions of people were already uninsured, and then millions more lost their private health insurance provided by their employer when they lost their job. 60 million people lost their job, lost their source of income. Millions more lost wages, lost hours that they would normally work at their job. And the response from the government has been almost non-existent for the last 9 months. So the way I've been viewing the situation, the best way I can describe it is like in some type of zombie apocalypse movie where the government just basically leaves the public for dead. They all go hide away in their secure bunkers where they'll be safe. All their well-connected, wealthy friends will be safe and taken care of, but they left the public to fend for themselves. That is basically what the government has done since COVID started, and it's unconscionable. Since they've left us for dead in this unprecedented crisis, it has led to the resurgence of mutual aid programs so that people can do their best to provide what little assistance they can to people in their communities who have nothing. They have absolutely no way of putting food on the table for their family. They have absolutely no way of paying utilities or paying rent to stay in their house, or for paying for necessary medical expenses. So people have turned to mutual aid to try to keep the bottom from falling out from under people. And a lot of people in my audience have wanted me to talk about mutual aid, and I've seen those comments, I've read those comments, but I wanted to take some time to really gather my thoughts on this, because my opinion on mutual aid and how much I would support it is not as black and white as many people in my audience. And to be clear, I will never ever tell people to not help out a starving family, to not help out somebody who's in the street and has no money and has no food. I will never tell people to not help people in their community who desperately are at the end of their rope and have absolutely no option. I will never, ever tell people to not help your fellow human beings who are going through the worst time of their lives. I will never tell people to not do that. But my issue with mutual aid is very similar to my criticism of charity. The problem, those things in a functioning society, those things should not exist. The real problem is the failure of the government to provide for their citizens, to redistribute wealth in a way that makes sense. I will never take away the good that the material good that these programs provide to people when they need it the most. But at the same time, I feel like they sort of shift responsibility from the government, from the main role of the government. You shift the responsibility of taking care of the citizens from the government onto regular people in the community. And I think people need to be very aware of that dynamic. So like I said, I will never tell people to not support mutual aid, to not help out people in the community who need help. But the way I see it, the most productive way to go about it isn't just to give people the assistance that they desperately need so that they can make it through another day, so that they can make it through another week. And, just hope that when they come back again the next time, you still have something left to give them. Instead of doing it like that and having them become dependent on these charity programs, I think that people should use mutual aid programs as a way to mobilize the people who are in desperate need, to mobilize them to engage in direct action, so that they force the politicians, so that they force the government to actually do their job and provide for their citizens. To me, that is the ideal way that I think mutual aid programs should work. They shouldn't just be helping people get through the day. Instead, it should be a tool to not only provide necessary assistance for the community, but also mobilize that very same community to put pressure on politicians. So I'm going to get more in detail with this, but you guys already know the deal. I love doing the show for you guys. I'm incredibly grateful for you, everybody who subscribed and helped me get to 3,000 subscribers on this channel. If you guys can help contribute to the show financially, I have a link to my Patreon account in the About page of the YouTube channel. You can sign up for different monthly rates, or if you feel more comfortable doing a one-time contribution, I also have a link to PayPal in the About page of my YouTube channel. So I'm incredibly grateful for all the people who subscribed, who've commented, who watched the videos, and even more grateful for the people who contribute financially, because you guys help me do what I love, which is this show. Now, back to this story. Now, again, this isn't some, pull yourself up by the bootstraps bullshit argument like that. This is more of, I don't want to ever absolve the government for their failure to provide for their citizens in this time of crisis. I don't ever want the responsibility to be taken away from the government to provide social programs and assistance to their citizens. I don't ever want to shift that responsibility from the government, which is what they are there to do. I don't want to shift that onto people who are themselves struggling, who are themselves barely getting by. I don't want to shift that responsibility onto them to now help other people in the community not starve to death, to help them keep their utilities on. I don't want to shift that responsibility onto regular people. As much as I appreciate and welcome seeing other people embrace this humanist approach of, I'm not going to let my fellow human suffer without trying to help. As much as I appreciate that, I don't ever want people to take the pressure off of government. I don't ever want to normalize this epic failure to do the most basic functions of government. Because since this has started, I've been seeing people, I've been seeing articles and people talking online and lionizing mutual aid, similar to how the media talks about charity, like normally how they talk about charity. and make it like a feel good story. Oh, the community is coming together. Isn't that so wonderful? Ignoring the fact that this shouldn't even be happening. If the government was doing their job, this shouldn't even be happening. Like, you see these charities that have existed for decades, feeding the homeless, feeding the hungry, raising hundreds of thousands of dollars and providing hundreds of thousands of meals to people who need it. And they do this year after year, provide housing for some homeless people. They raise hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions of dollars, and they select some people and provide housing to them. As great as that is, as much as you've changed those people's lives, there are just limitations to that. You can only go so far. Say you're a food bank. You raise money, you feed 20,000 homeless people in a day or something like that, or 20,000 hungry people in a day. As great as that is, what about the 100,000 people who didn't get any food because you ran out of food? What about that? Or what about the fact that those same people that you fed today are going to be right back looking for more food the next day or the next week? The mutual aid aside, the mutual aid programs that have been created since COVID aside, I've seen this vicious cycle, this never-ending cycle of just doing what you can to help as many people as you can, but still it doesn't go anywhere near enough to address the real problem, the root problem. You change those people's lives forever, 100%, no doubt about it. But there's still multiple times people who won't even get that chance. And again, I'm not downplaying the importance of this. My sister, my twin sister, you remember the story about the whole Star Motel where the owner wasn't paying utilities. They cut off all the utilities. There was no electricity. There was no water, and people were just stuck there, stranded. They had no money to go anywhere else. That was became a national story. My sister, when she got out of work, she got paid. She went to the Star Motel, and she was giving those people supplies, and she was giving them food and stuff like that. So and she told me how grateful these people are because the government wasn't doing anything for them. The police weren't doing anything for them. They left them for dead. So they were incredibly grateful for that, and that made a huge difference in those people's lives. But you can only do that so much. And you can only that kind of help can only go so far. The point of the government can create money. The government has an unlimited wallet to solve any number of problems that people in the society are facing. So instead of just throwing up our hands and saying, fuck it, they're not going to do anything, and just, taking it and just throwing away that incredibly important tool to actually combat wealth inequality and economic issues in the country and in your community, and just resigning to just doing charity and helping out in whatever little way you can, people need to start figuring out how to wield the tool of government and make it work for us like how it's supposed to. If you want to help out in mutual aid, if you want to start a mutual aid program, if you want to volunteer at one of those programs, like I said earlier in the beginning of the video, that should be used to mobilize direct action. If you're providing food and groceries for people in the community who can't feed themselves, who can't feed their families, do that. Do that 100%. I respect that more than I can put in words. But don't just do that. There should also be some sort of pressure campaign on the politicians that's supposed to be representing you in that area. So yeah, you give out the food, you give out the groceries, you help out the people in the community. But at the same time you're doing that, let them know, hey, at this date, we're going to our congressperson's house. We're going there, and we aren't going to leave until they pass UBI. until they pass a stimulus bill that has the UBI, $2,000 a month for everybody in this country, and make it retroactive for the 9 months they try to scam us out of a check. So here you go. We'll give you these groceries, but we will greatly appreciate it if you show up at this whenever you have time, whenever you're available. If you can show up and help out with the numbers there, it would mean a lot to us. And we'll also have food and supplies there too. That's a good way to use mutual aid to organize direct action. If you're helping people, giving them some money to pay their utilities, give them the money and be like, hey, we're doing what we can. We're raising up however much money we can to help out people in the community, but we don't have unlimited funds. And at some point, we're not going to have money to help you out. So we're doing this action. We're going to be outside the home of this politician, and it would mean a lot to us if you can come out and help pressure them to get them to back UBI, so that you have reliable income coming in, and so that you don't have to be stressed, so that you don't have to be worrying and trying to scrape whatever you can together and hope that you can keep the lights on for the next month. You don't deserve to live like that. Nobody deserves to live like that. So here, we'll give you this money, but we really appreciate it if you'd come out and help pressure these politicians to actually do their job. Like, do it like that. That's for me, that's the most productive way to have a mutual aid program. And it's not like some type of extortion shit like, hey, if you don't show up, you ain't getting nothing from us. No, you're there to help people. You're there to help the community do that. But at the same time, you have to provide it's best to provide a real concrete long-term solution along with the aid that you're providing them. I know a lot of you have wanted me to talk about mutual aid for a while. A lot of you have wanted me to talk about get into more specifics about direct action and how to organize it. Because, a lot of the time I talk about how fucked up this shit is, how unresponsive the government is to us. I talk about that a lot on the show, so a lot of you guys want to hear solutions. There's a solution. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Happy to have a discussion about this.